Alright, so it's been some time since I've done a versus video, and now, due to popular demand, we're going to have a little tilt between Michael and Freddy. Now, this is going to be a tough one. I have to compare their weapons and how they use them in each of their films. Also, the kind of tactics that they use among other things. Everyone knows their primary weapons, Mike with the kitchen knife and Freddy with the glove. So basically I have to come up with the criteria for the battle. Also, I want to end it in one video. In the Michael vs. Jason video, it had to go to a tiebreak, and I always felt that that video didn't do the battle justice. How do you attack Freddy? He lives in dreams, intangible in the walking world. Except for number 2, and that'll come into play here. Michael, well, he just doesn't die, although in number 2 that seemed to be it. And in H2O, well, the beheading, that should have been it and ended the series there, but that's another story. I'll announce the criteria as we go, and then for the final decision. But as usual, let's start out with announcing our contenders in this match. In this corner, standing 5'10" and weighing 175 pounds, from Springfield, Freddy Krueger, also known as the Springwood Slasher. And in the other corner, standing about 6'1", not counting the ridiculous 7-foot zombie version, weighing in at 200 pounds, Michael Myers from Haddonfield, Illinois. Weapons. Well, Michael has the kitchen knife. He uses other things as well, but the kitchen knife is his trademark. Short range and he needs to get near you. Oddly enough, he walks real slow and still manages to catch up to his victims. Classic slasher nonsense, but suiting and eerie, I suppose. Freddy, on the other hand, takes the advantage. The glove, I find, is more to strike fear into his victims. His true weapon is a psychological attack, finding your fears and exploiting them in order to claim his next victim. Escapability. That's not a word, but let's roll with it. Michael, like in part 4, trapped part of the main cast in the house for some time. It seemed like certain doom for our main characters, yet they got away. Freddy lets potential victims live at the end of his movies, but in Michael's case, support is always on the way. He's known to the police and Dr. Loomis is there to alert everyone and try to stop Michael. In the end, some die, but Michael is usually taken down. Freddy, on the other hand, attacks you in your dreams, attacking the children of Springwood for revenge, and then for some reason continuing to kill other teens after his job is complete, which never made sense to me, but whatever. But the adults never believe the kids, like Nancy's father in part 1 just telling her to go to sleep. You might think he might believe her after her boyfriend's gruesome death. The death alone should raise alarm bells. Let's look at this again in slow-mo. Look at the blood rushing to the ceiling. What murderer or any person could do that to a body? That's insane and awesome. But that's the dilemma. Nobody believes the kids and they're on their own, giving Freddy a serious advantage. Even in part 3 with all the kids, Dr. Sims treats the kids all over town and they haven't met and they all share identical dreams and are dying, which the hospital deems suicide. Like, come on, wake up. Anyway, Michael, in fairness, he has stealth. He's known as the Shape for a reason. And to his credit, he's not a mindless killer. In H2O, he visited Loomis's old nurse's house and found the whereabouts of Laurie Strode, now Laurie Tate. Now that's some clever detective work, but I'd like to know how he was unnoticed making his way from Illinois to California, but whatever. Still, tip your hat to Mikey for that one. And just for the hell of it, I'll put in who looks cooler, or more threatening. No bearing on my decision, but Freddy is so creative looking, and I recall Tina's first sight of him, in the dark alley, when the long left arm in the dark, and you can't see his face. It's just terrifying. Personally, Mike frightens me a little more. Remember the scene in part 6 with Jamie Lloyd? Now that was an intense scene, and seeing his face from out of nowhere? So, pick your poison. They both look pretty creepy and chilling to look at, but I'd say Michael with that lifeless mask takes it. Except for in H2O where you can see his eyes just a little too much. Kill count. Series total, including the remake, Freddy has amassed 43 victims to his name, whereas Michael, including the 2009 remake, has amassed 111 victims in total. I find this misleading. Freddy is very selective about who he goes after, and it's very deliberate. Michael, on the other hand, gets a little inflated. There just seems to be a lot of non-plot related victims in the way for the sake of trumping up the movie a bit. It works, but it doesn't make him more dangerous. Strength. Well, simple. Dream World, Michael has no chance. It's Freddy's domain. As we saw in Freddy vs. Jason, Jason got his ass kicked in the Dream World, and the same would happen to Michael. Michael has raw physical strength and displays it time and time again. He's also very durable, taking a lot of abuse and still managing to come back for another sequel, usually worse than the previous. Freddy takes abuse too, but in the dream world, and it's frivolous to attack him there, except for in part 5 where the kid barfed Freddy evil back into Freddy, and I don't understand how that worked. Maybe I'll do a video on all the problems with the Nightmare series too. Maybe another time. One more thing to cover is how ruthless they are. Yeah, we both know they kill kids. Freddy murdered children and was known as the Springwood Slasher. Michael, he's more selective, going after family, but Jamie Lloyd was just a little girl, but it's well established that Michael has no heart, except for a brief scene in part 5 where he tears up. But now let's get to the scenario. I've given you a little bit about where they're at, so let's set this up. Let's say Freddy has a grudge against Michael for stealing his victims, for the sake of argument, just a little like Freddy vs. Jason. Michael's unaware of this and keeps going, so let's get to the brawl. Michael beats the hell out of him like Nancy did, and again like in part 1. I doubt Michael would kill him with the power of love like in part 2, but that would be sweet of him. So Freddy attempts to defeat Mike on his ground and fails. The final conclusion is Freddy bides his time and waits for Michael to come into his world. Eventually Michael at some point is put into a coma like in part 4 after the explosion in part 2. Then, in the dream world, much like Jason, he gets his ass kicked. Freddy can't kill him, but renders him useless for the rest of eternity, leaving him a vegetable on a table. Winner, Freddy Krueger. Well, that concludes another Versus video. I hope you enjoyed. These Versus videos are a tough call and very subjective. Looking forward to hearing your opinions. Once again, this was HMRG. Thanks for watching.